Welcome into episode 125 of Instigate Success, building an ABA franchise, your official podcast of the Hoosier State Instigators. Here Friday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, for about the hour or so, depending on how much stuff we got to go over. We are still in the off season currently. We are now in May at this point. So we've got a few months left until we get back into the regular season, and we should have some tryouts coming up probably next month, is what we're looking at. Once we do get those finalized, you guys will hear all about that. It'll be on our social media, and we'll post various ways or various forms so that anybody interested can sign up because that is how we make our roster. Um, and obviously we get players to come back, but each year we always have those tryouts, and that's how we get guys who play for the team and then come back. So that's going to be most likely next month. Our first one's going to be put up. We're working on getting all the details hammered out for that, and you'll see it on anywhere we're on social, Facebook, Instagram, obviously on our website, on the podcast here. And we'll have ways for you guys to sign up for anybody interested. If you know anybody interested, tell them to keep an eye out here probably in the next month or so to see when our first tryout is going to be. We are going to have a few, we normally do. But the first one is looking like it'll be in June. So we got coming up with the team as far as updates. Obviously, then once we have some tryouts, then we'll be making more announcements as far as the roster goes. I think coaching wise, I feel like we're probably going to run it back again. We had a good year, this past year, season 3, our most successful season. So I think we're going to run with some of it back. Obviously, we always take some fan input in here, and that's one of the key things with the Apex Athletic Collective, having that fan decision making at the ownership level. So that goes into it just as much. So we've got that. Obviously, nothing official at this point, but that's just me, talking as far as the team goes to give you some updates. As far as Instigators news goes, specifically with the team, that's pretty much it for right now. But they did announce some different, what do you call it? Divisions within the ABA. Every year they always do this with the ABA. They change the divisions, they update divisions, new teams, and so on and so forth. So we're going to jump over to Minotaur's site here, and they've got the new central regions as of right now for the upcoming season. And you can see here 2026-2027 region, central region division updates. Obviously, they're doing this for all of the divisions across the board for the ABA. The only ones that we typically focus on are the central, being that that's where we're located, and the teams that we play are within that. So we're really only going to even go over this, and then as we know and have seen, it changes throughout the season. So for us to jump into each and every region doesn't make much sense at this point. But for 2026, 2027, this is what the ABA currently has out for the regions. Again, courtesy of Minotaur Media for the website here, where we're pulling this information. Theirs is a lot nicer, straightforward way to look at this stuff than jumping over to the ABA site's a little bit more bulky to go through, but you can see here. So this is what we're looking at for your red division in the central region. That's where we started out last season, and most of the teams that we played against were in that to start. It looks like now the red division in the central region um, has no teams left in Indiana, as far as I know. I believe Clarksville's in Tennessee as well. So it looks like that's pretty much the Tennessee. We got a few Tennessee teams, Ohio and Kentucky. So you got Clarksville, the Phoenix out there, I believe, again in Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee, Knoxville Commerce, Louisville Pros in Kentucky, Nashville Aces in Tennessee, and the Ohio Kings out in Ohio. So a little bit more geographically towards that um, Tennessee area. You got your team out in Kentucky, and then Ohio is a bit further away, so a little bit more travel for them. And if we look back at this past season, Nashville was undefeated throughout regular season, and they were the representative actually for the Central region this past season. Kings only lost to the Aces, so they're looking to avenge that. That's what we got for the red division. Again, that's the team that, or the division that we started in last season. As far as that goes, it's all the same teams from the last season that finished in the red division. Blue region is different again. So you can see they have us in there currently. They've got most of the teams that finished out this season in this division. So Akron, the Akron Aviators, located in Ohio, they were in it. And the Steel City Yellow Jackets, obviously in Pittsburgh, they were the two like or OG teams, I guess you could say, in that blue division that are in the blue division again for the upcoming season. Then we had the handful of us that got shifted over during the season. Obviously, ourselves, the Indiana Legends, the Indiana Lions, and the Indiana Shuckers. All of these Indiana teams, ourselves included, these four, got shifted over to the Blue Division during the season. Then you've got three new teams, and I believe maybe one team they're returning of those three. But you got the Gem City Sabercats, the Naptown Pirates, and the Port Huron Wolves. So three new teams in that Blue Division makes it a very heavy division with 9 teams currently on slate to be in that. So again, the ABA, as we've seen, has shifted divisions throughout the season. Would not be surprised at all if that does happen, if there are 9 teams playing throughout the whole season, just with the way that playoffs are scheduled and play-ins are scheduled throughout the ABA. 9 teams is a lot to have in that one, especially when you have other, um, divisions in the same region with 5. So again, it's never set in stone with them, but we'll wait and see how that plays out. But if it stays the way it is, we've got several competitive teams just based off of last season. Obviously, we were the second furthest. We lost to the Yellow Jackets, but the Lions are always competitive. Legends had a great season last year. And then the Shuckers, I feel like, are going to take a step up this season as well. Obviously going their first season in league play over the past couple of years. And then we got the 3 new teams. So Naptown Pirates are based in Indianapolis, so another Indiana team. And then you've got the Wolves out in Michigan. And the Gem City Sabercats, those are in Ohio. So we've got Ohio, a bunch. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 5 teams out in Indiana. Then you got Michigan and Pennsylvania. So pretty spread out as far as what they've got on the slate for the Blue Division. And you can see that there. But yeah, as always, it's not 100% final until the season takes place and we see how things shake up in the ABA. But that's what they've got out for right now. So the first kind of update we've seen within the ABA as far as the divisions go during the off season with the new team announcements. So that's what we are looking at right now. But that's again something that we've noticed every season is it seems that the conferences and or divisions, more specifically divisions, have some facet of modification, and that's where it is right now. So we'll leave it at that. As far as instigators, one more thing I've got for the instigators um, going on right now, and actually let's see if I can pull up the other pictures. Um, all right, so you guys are gonna see this live. Um, so if you're over on our Facebook, you may have already seen this. But it looks like today Brighton was doing some test laps out in Anderson Speedway, not too far from our hometown of Fishers, Indiana, and he had the Instigators logo on his car, which was pretty cool to see. That was the show car, if you remember the show car from when we had our motorsports night. So he's got that up and running now. He just did some laps out there today. Looks like it was a practice going on there. And sorry for the delay there. I was posting, he actually just posted some pictures of the car too. So we got those up on our we just reposted that. But Brayton's dad, Dane, he posted this one earlier, out doing some testing with the car there. Again, that's the one that we had up at the motorsports night. So if you got some photos with it there, this is the same car that you're seeing with that Instigators 13 font. And this is a late model sportsman car, as far as which class it is in. And let's see if we can jump up to this. I think this should switch over. Yep, so you can see that now. So you can see there's some more pictures of that car. Again, we got his still got that 13 Instigators logo on the side there. But this was the car that if you were lucky enough to be out there for that record-breaking event um, for Motorsports Night, where Brayton Laster made his debut for the Hoosier State Instigators. This is the same car that you guys saw out there. So that's cool to see that on the track. Obviously, we've got that the diecast, the official diecast with Lionel coming out for the '06, the Wayne Peterson '06 that Brayton drove at IRP last year. So always cool to be involved in. Obviously it was a great thing to have Brayton out for that motorsports night this past season. Was one of our biggest events. Well, I guess technically the biggest event that we've had to this point, as far as the audience reach has gone. Over 5 million views across platforms, from the interactions between our team, the Hoosier State Instigators, and Brayton Laster, um, and over 200,000 shares. It's just crazy the numbers that were put out from that. But it's cool to see that car in action. And if you were there, you probably got to hear it a few times get started up. That thing is crazy loud. That's really the only way to describe that. It is a race car. I mean, it's a race car. Like if you've grown up and you've been around race cars, race cars are extremely loud. This thing was extremely loud, um, and I'm looking forward to seeing him put that out on the track at some point, in some races. Obviously, I'm not as local as the other guys, as far as in the Indiana region. But let's pull up the map here and let's see how far Anderson Speedway is from Best Choice Fieldhouse. So from Best Choice Fieldhouse, it is just under 30 minutes. So it's 23 miles away. So not even a half an hour away, as far as that track goes, in Anderson Speedway. So maybe we'll see that car out on track here in some races, and we can share that too for you guys to go out and catch some of those races with Brayton. Obviously, we are going to be planning on riding along again in the Indianapolis Raceway Park races. So obviously we got to get all that stuff figured out and put together before we make final announcements, but we're still planning on that. Hopefully we can do something similar this year and have you guys put some votes together, to put what we've got out on the car again. So last year we had that pretty cool fan vote to decide which logo and where it went on the vehicle. And we had that booth out there. Hopefully we can do a lot of similar stuff and take that even a step further, for this upcoming season and the upcoming race at IRP. But that was a lot of fun, super, super cool experience. And, I think all of us are really looking forward to doing that again. Great. It was really great to have, the guys on the team and Brayton, get to meet each other beforehand, like before having him on the court. And then obviously when he was on the court, it was cool to see that both ways it was a great relationship, and cool to see kind of the expert in each of the fields provide tips and insights on their respective fields. And obviously our guys were excited about the races, got to see the car on the track. He gave us some cool things to keep an eye out for. And then obviously on the basketball side, we had him as the celebrity player, our first ever celebrity player in history. So that was a really cool experience. And if we see any more races and such, we'll try to keep you guys updated as far as what Brayton has coming up here on his schedule, so you guys can stay in touch and follow his races. And if you're in the area, go out and support him too. You can also, don't forget, we've got Brayton Laster Instigators jersey, so you can actually wear your Instigators gear out to the races too. So it's a 2-for-1. It counts as your Instigators gear and your racing gear. So works out great. But we'll be sure to continue to share that for you guys to keep up. So that's what we got. One more thing. Actually, I honestly forgot about this. So got one more thing. As far as the Instigators news goes, we have already been over on TikTok. We've had issues with logins and such, and accounts getting lost and whatnot. We are back up over on TikTok. So we just relaunched that page. It has all of our recent shorts that we've been putting out for the season 3 highlights. Those have been uploaded. The new ones, once they get uploaded, will be posted on there as well. We're also going to see if maybe we can get some more content on there as well. That's ultimately up to this guy. But we're going to try to do that. We being me, but we're gonna try to. And I've got another one scheduled for probably Monday. We're gonna have another one of those shorts up. And again, if you guys can please let me know if you have a preference on what type of these videos you guys like to see. I can try to focus and cater to that. We have some that I've done which were more of your traditional basketball, just straight cut highlights. We also have some that were more of your like MLG-esque, I guess is the best way for me to put it, cuts, and those ones have been posted as well. And then, I've got another type of video that I've got planned for Monday. So if you got one that you think like, oh, hey, I liked the way this one was, or maybe, hey, you're taking that a little too far. I just want to see some basketball. Let me know, and I'll make it. So whatever you guys like to see, that is what you guys will see. Again, we take that fan input and we take that and use it, and that's ultimately what we want to put out is what you guys want to see. So feel free to let me know. That can be on any social media when we're posting it on there. If it's on the YouTube, it's on TikTok, wherever it is, just let me know and I will see it one way or another. So that way we can put that all together. But got another one coming up here, I believe probably Monday. I'm going to have that coming out here. So that is the one other thing. The TikTok that is the new one is going to be Instigators Basketball. So just in case you are looking for it, it would be at Instigators Basketball. So we've got a few videos up here. It's the 5 that are from the season 3 highlights that you have seen on our other social medias and YouTube. So that's your instigators updates for right now. As far as some other stuff, I figured we might as well just throw in here, to cover some stuff. It's Apex related, I should say, in a way, maybe for some of it. Maybe it's not. Doesn't really matter, but it's another talking piece for right now. Obviously, being in the off season until we get into the trenches, with our tryouts coming up, and obviously when our diecast comes out, we're gonna spend a ton of time on that. So we've got those things coming up here. At some point in the off season, and so we're going to jump into the next thing. So myself and most of our ownership group came over from the fan controlled sports and entertainment realm, whether that's, well, I guess, yeah, fan controlled football ultimately is where we came from. There is an event going on next week, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, next Saturday. Next Saturday, there is a boxing fight set between two former fan-controlled football alum. Maybe I'm misusing that, but we'll say that. And it's going to be Johnny Manziel, the quarterback. Yes, Johnny Manziel, the quarterback, boxing, taking on Bob Menery. And I am not 100% sure if this is going to be a legitimate fight. I do not know if this is going to be like the Jake Paul fights, but apparently they are doing a boxing match between Johnny Manziel and Bob Menery. So that will be interesting to see. And here's the cherry on top. Apparently, this is hosted by Aiden Ross's brand, another FCF tie there. Obviously, Bob Menery being on the ownership group of the Zappers quarterback being Johnny Manziel, face of the franchise. except for when you could maybe argue that um, some of their star receivers could have been that too. But I would say, across all the seasons, they had Johnny Manziel. So Johnny Manziel, I would say, is face of the franchise. But that is apparently next week. There's a boxing match between Johnny Manziel and Bob Menery. So keep an eye out for that, I guess, and watch it if you want. But I'll keep an eye out myself, maybe. I don't know. Actually, that makes me think next week. I don't think I will be here for the podcast again. Man, I am slacking with these episodes. It's like every other week at this point. But yeah, I'm gonna be traveling probably next week. So we shall see if I can do it. I will do it, but I don't anticipate that I will be on next week. Um, but I'll try to give you guys a heads up each week ahead of time. Going into these, if I do know ahead of time that I won't be able to make it, but I don't think next week I'll be on here. But that's that random thing I just wanted to throw in there. The other thing, which I'm sure our locals are pretty fed up on, is the NBA draft, specifically the draft lottery. So we're gonna share the draft order. At least we'll do the top four. Oh, I can't do the 14, so we'll do top 13. Yeah, you can see that. So the winners of the number one pick, the Washington Wizards, they've got themselves a pretty good selection there between, I think there's kind of a top three consensus there. I think maybe even like a number one consensus at this point. Um, Ultimately, I guess it will be up to the Wizards who they feel is the true number one there. And then number two did not go to the team that I think a lot of you guys were hoping for. It went to the Utah Jazz. Um, so Utah's got that number two pick, Memphis three, Chicago four, and if you are a Pacers fan, you probably realize at this point it's not looking good. So the Pacers made a trade that had their pick been in the top four, they would hold on to it. Outside of the top four, it goes to the Clippers, and that was the Ivaka Subac trade. So, as fate would have it, that pick goes number five. So the Pacers do not have that pick; it goes to the Clippers, and that's quite literally worst case scenario. So that's how that played out. Brooklyn 6, Sacramento 7, Atlanta via a trade from New Orleans has the eighth pick, Dallas with number 9 after being number 1 last season, and Milwaukee with the 10th pick. That's your top 10. Then you've got your teams that were in the playoffs for the bottom four there. Golden State, Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City, though, is from the Clippers that pick. It's not their own, obviously. And then Miami and Charlotte round up. I believe that's your. Well, and then Portland there is 15. Memphis, yeah. All right. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see as far as how it plays out. I think right now, if I had to say who I think is going number one, I'm pretty sure I feel like the unanimous feeling at this point is probably going to be AJ Diabansa. I feel like that's pretty much going to be set there at the number one spot. Number two and number three, I think, is more up in the air. Obviously, Darren Peterson's a guy that's going to be into that conversation. Then you've got Boozer is going to be in there in that conversation. And I feel like that's kind of what's been the top three throughout the NCAA season. You could also probably throw Caleb Wilson in there from UNC. I'd say those are kind of your top four. Like I feel like those are pretty much going to be the top four unless somebody drafts out of need, rather than that consensus rankings. So it'll just be interesting to see that. The one thing though I think is pretty weirdly cool that's possible, and this is obviously a lot of bias here from me. So I grew up. I'm a Syracuse fan, but my favorite player was Carlos Boozer. So to have Boozer son, be available at that number two pick for Utah, if he goes there to play for the Jazz as his father did, obviously I think that would be pretty cool. I know Carlos did not get drafted by the Jazz, but that was pretty much where his career kind of picked up was with the Jazz. He was on the Cavs to start, but really he solidified himself as an all-star on the Jazz. The other possibility there is Chicago at number four. If Boozer falls down to that four spot, and the top three there would go Diabanza. I think Peterson probably is going to be second. And then if Caleb Wilson jumps to that three, or maybe another name jumps up there, that would leave Boozer available for that number four spot. And obviously Carlos, father, um, built a big brand in Chicago there. Chicago Bulls had that pretty solid run there with, obviously D Rose up at point. They had Luau Dang, Carlos Boozer, Joakim Noah. So, that was a pretty solid lineup they had for a while. So I feel like the possibilities for that to happen, assuming there's not any crazy trades there, but for the two and the four spots there is a very real chance for Boozer to go to one of his father's former teams. So that's, I think, a cool storyline to keep an eye out on. Obviously, then I think the other storyline is going to be what happens as far as trades go. As always with the NBA draft, there's always crazy amounts of trades there. And you've got some teams that it'll be interesting to see how it kind of plays out. Milwaukee in that 10 spot, Giannis is always a name that gets thrown up as far as trade discussions and whatnot. Um, every year it seems like they're like, is he going to stay in Milwaukee or is he going to leave? Um, and then ultimately you also have the decision for the Lakers, who I don't think have a great pick. Yeah, 25th pick. What happens with their offseason? Obviously, with a lot of big decisions looming for them with LeBron James. And with Washington, actually, there's always that fun I don't know if it's a statistic or just like a fact, I guess, a fun fact, where a team involved in a Anthony Davis trade gets the number one pick again. So last year he got traded to the Mavs and they got the number one pick. And this year he got traded to the Wizards and they get the number one pick. And he wound up getting injured in both seasons. So there's that. But obviously it'll be interesting to see how everything shakes out for that. Um, so you got that coming up in the near future. Actually, it's about a month away. I said near future. It's about a month away, because that's going to be after the finals. So got that in the future. Probably around, I would say, the same time frame as our tryouts, maybe somewhere around that range. And you got the playoffs going on now. Obviously, you got the Pistons and Cavs playing. Looks like the Pistons are up and pretty handedly at this point. So it looks like they'll even up that series. They'll go to a game 7 on Sunday. And then you got the Spurs and the Timberwolves later tonight. So we'll see how that one shakes out there too. Um, you know, got that. But I think that's really like all I had planned for tonight's episode. We got you guys caught back up on the Instigators news. Be sure to keep an eye out for these highlights. They're going to keep coming out probably like once a week. And if you are on TikTok, go and check out that TikTok page, and we'll start putting some more content out on there. And also, just in general, if you guys ever have any ideas as far as content to put out, let us know, and we'll do our best to accommodate to that. So obviously, there's that for you guys too, and let us know. As far as the podcast goes, I'm going to say I'm probably not going to be here next week for it, but I should be back the following week. Um, but we will keep you guys updated on any news with the instigators as far as tryouts, anything of that nature, over on the social medias as well, as soon as we have that to share. And any up to date news. We'll continue actually sharing some of those posts when Brayton does posts that he is racing. We're going to try to kind of push that too, to keep you guys involved. I feel like in the Apex Athletic Collective and that brand, build that too. So keep an eye out for that. And obviously, if you're local enough, go ahead and support him. And if you get the chance to meet Brayton, he's an amazing dude, and he will definitely take the time, to talk with you. And he'll probably even talk some basketball with you if you want. But it's fun to be at those races. And I think the races are in July again for the IRP races that we are planning to do. So we'll keep you guys updated throughout that process. But that's going to be it for tonight's episode. Um, Thank you guys, as always, for joining us for Instigate Success, Building an ABA Franchise, the official podcast of your Hoosier State Instigators. Until next time, as always, be great and instigate.